Hi, my name is Beth Heidern. I'm the Executive Director here at the Racine Zoo. And today we're going to talk about birds. Did you know that there are over 300 of species of birds in Wisconsin? I love that. Now, that doesn't mean that I've got all 300 species here at the Racine Zoo, but we do have some amazing birds. You're going to be talking and learning about, with our animal care staff, all the different birds that we have, from a tawny frogmouth to our budgies, and go into our aviary, to our adjutant storks. So there's going to be a variety of things that you're going to learn today. You know, some people don't necessarily like birds, like some people don't like reptiles, but I think when you're done with today's show, you're going to fall in love with birds just like we are here at the Racine Zoo. So enjoy.
Hi, I'm Angie Sager, the supervisor here in animal care, and next we're going to talk about one of our largest bird species that we have at the zoo. These are our lesser adjutant storks. They stand about 4 feet tall, have an 8-foot wingspan, and can weigh anywhere from 8 to 10 pounds. The females are normally just a little bit smaller than the males, but they do generally range within that weight range. These guys are native to India and Southeast Asia, and they are cousins to the more common marabou stork from Africa. These guys here live in our free flight aviary, so they have this whole big exhibit to be able to fly around in with that 8-foot wingspan. And this exhibit also allows our guests kind of a different experience where they can come out onto this viewing deck, enter the exhibit with the animals, and get a different perspective and an up-close and personal experience. This allows our guests to be able to build a bond with the animals that they may not be able to get just from looking at the animals from the outside of the exhibit. Our birds here do eat meat, so these guys get a variety of meat and fish and mice every day for their diet. Our keepers come out and check on the animals in the morning throughout the day, check to make sure they have their fresh food, fresh water, clean the exhibit, and make sure that they have everything they need throughout the day. Our lesser adjutant storks are named Sammy and Soka, and they're both about 15 years old. Their favorite places to hang out in the exhibit are up on the taller perches, like you can maybe see behind me. They don't do well in the colder months, so they do move to an inside space in the winter. And these guys there's only a few zoos that house these unique species, so make sure that you stop by and see them when you come to the Racine Zoo.
Hi, I'm Tanner Laskowski. I'm a seasonal keeper here at the Racine Zoo. We have just over 170 of these wonderful bungies right behind us. They're also known as bundarigars, that's their full name, but we usually call them budgies, or they're known as parakeets as well. So we do a lot of different things with our birds. We allow guests the opportunity to get very close and have lots of relationships with these birds and be able to have a lot of experiences and memories with these guys. So we do offer seed sticks for them to be able to feed the birds and also get them a little closer so kids can also see them at a closer distance and kind of form a deeper connection with these guys. These guys are naturally found in Australia, so they're found in fields and roadways of Australia. So whenever a car drives by, they are known to get up in a big flock and actually block out a lot of sunlight when they're all up. So the daily cleaning we have with these guys is we usually come in the morning and we'll actually sanitize and disinfect the entire trail. That's just to protect our birds from any germs that we might track in as guests or as keepers. And then we also disinfect all the perching and all of the different things that we'll put in here for the birds throughout the day. A lot of other of the cleaning we do can involve stuff like their toys or enrichment that we give them every day, so we can have anything from a feeding enrichment to hanging toys for the birds to play with and crawl over and stuff. So we do a lot of that here at the Racine Zoo. We also make seed sticks at the Racine Zoo that we offer our guests the opportunity to buy. These seed sticks allow, like I said, guests to get a little closer to the birds and create a little bit deeper of a memory for the kids and the adults who are active in using the seed sticks. We have 107, just over 170, like I said, in here. So we do get asked a lot too if we allow our birds to breed in the aviary out here. We don't allow them to breed in the outdoor aviary. We don't give them the necessary materials to build a nest, kind of. We do this because there's so many birds out here and so many males that the males might get a little bit aggressive towards the other ones. So usually what we do is right before we bring all of our birds out here for the summer season, we'll actually take a few out of the whole population and put them in smaller enclosures and give them what they need to build the bird nest and put it all kind of together. And then since there's so less of the birds in one area, it's a lot safer for the birds to be able to breed and have a more successful chance of having a baby or something like that. So we can monitor how great our population size is and keep adding to keep it up to track with how many we have in the aviary too.
Taking care of birds can be a challenging experience. We have a lot of different species of birds here at the zoo, and they all have different habitat needs, different diet needs, and different daily requirements throughout the day. Some of them are fish eaters, some of them are meat eaters, some might eat other prey items or seed or fruit. So all of our keepers have to make sure that they know what the birds that they're taking care of need and make sure that they're adjusting appropriately. Some of our birds we feed multiple times throughout the day, like our penguins behind us. Some we make sure that we hand feed so that they're getting the nutrients that they need, like our tawny frogmouth and also our penguins. Other birds we just put their diet out and they can eat as they want whenever they would like. The daily care for our bird species can be similar, even though the species themselves are very different. Our keepers come in each day, check on all of our birds, make sure that they have all of the food and water that they need, clean their outdoor and indoor habitats, and provide any enrichment that they might need. There are also a lot of native birds that call the zoo home as well. And because of that, we do have to take some extra precautions to make sure that we're keeping our resident birds safe. Obviously, birds can fly, and the native birds that live around the zoo can fly right into the animals' enclosures. So some of the things that we do to make sure that we are eliminating some of those risks are whenever we're entering a bird exhibit or habitat, we change our shoes or put on a pair of booties over our shoes so that we're not bringing anything unwanted into their exhibit and introducing anything harmful into them. In addition to changing our shoes or putting booties on, we also make sure to keep the exhibits nice and clean. We clean them every day to remove any of the wild bird feces that might be out there. We also wash our hands, use hand sanitizer, or wear gloves to make sure that we're not introducing anything unnecessary into their environment. And those are just a few of the precautions that we take to make sure that we're keeping our bird population here at the zoo nice and healthy.
Rails may sound more like a train track than a bird, but they're actually a group of birds that are found throughout the world. Here in Wisconsin, we have a few different species of rails, including Virginia rails, yellow rails, things like that. And they are all these small wading birds with super long legs that fly around and catch small insects and fish in the water. But the Guam rail is a super special rail. They are endemic to the island of Guam, which means they are found nowhere else in the world except Guam and a couple of neighboring islands. But what makes the Guam rail really special is that they are actually extinct in the wild. Unfortunately, through the invasion of brown tree snakes on the island of Guam, they extirpated a lot of the species that are native there. You see, while rails all over the world can actually fly, the Guam rail is actually on an island where there really weren't a lot of predators to birds. And because flying is so energetically expensive, Guam rails lost the ability to fly. And for thousands of years, they got along just fine on Guam until those brown tree snakes came in. The brown tree snake problem on the island of Guam is so bad that they constantly go into electrical boxes to try to get warm, causing power outages across the island. And Guam rails were not the only bird to disappear due to this. Luckily, a lot of people in Guam really cared about their native species, and they went to the Isle Rota to start an ecological project to try to bring some of those species back. they were able to get rid of all the invasive tree snakes on that island so that they could start to reintroduce populations of some of those species. And the Guam rail is one of those species. Now, with none of them left in the wild, the only Guam rails were left in zoos. Many of those zoos actually in the US and AZA zoos, including our zoo, the Racine Zoo. So we are actually part of a large breeding effort with many other zoos to try to bring that Guam rail back from extinction. Any eggs produced at our zoo go back into the wild to be reintroduced on Isle Rhoda to try to bring back a wild breeding population of Guam rails while extirpation efforts for the brown tree snake take place on Guam, so that hopefully we can replace a lot of those species that are lost. Our Guam rail here is a male, and he is a really, really interesting bird. He loves to run around and hop around when he's excited, but he's also very elusive. He might be the most difficult animal to find here at the zoo. You really have to look closely in the back corner of his exhibit. He loves to hide in the branches and the trees, because when you're a bird that can't fly, your best defense is just to be really hard to find. So on your way into Walkabout Creek, be sure to look for our little guy back there in the leaves.
Hi, I'm Jason Schwartz. I'm a keeper here at the Racine Zoo. I'm here outside of Raptor Roost to talk about some of our local birds of prey. We've got Mario, the great horned owl, right behind me. Off to the side, just off camera, we've got Rudy, the red-tailed hawk, and at the front of the zoo, greeting guests as they come in, we have Alvis, our little screech owl. We've got these two housed pretty close together for a pretty good reason. These guys can both be found all across North America. They both have very similar diets and hunting strategies. They'll eat all sorts of small mammals, invertebrates, little birds, even some reptiles and fish. And the main difference between the two, why we don't really have any issues with them hunting in the same areas, is because they'll actually be hunting at different times. The owl here is of course nocturnal, meaning they mostly are active and hunting at night. And the hawk is diurnal, hunting mostly during the day, so there's not too much overlap and competition between the two. So all of our birds of prey were actually hatched out in the wild, and they sustained different injuries out there. Mario actually received a foot injury somehow, was sent to a rehab facility where they nursed him back to health, but determined that he would be unreleasable as he wouldn't be able to hunt effectively and take care of himself out there. So that's where we came in. He was placed with us, so we take care of him, give him a nice home here. Similar situation with Rudy. Rudy was hatched out in the wild and sustained a wing injury. So without being able to sustain flight for very long, they wouldn't be able to release her back into the wild, so she came to us. And same thing actually with Alvis at the front of the zoo, another wing injury, went to a rehab facility, nursed back to health, but determined wouldn't be able to go back out into the wild. So I could touch a little bit on what makes these birds of prey, these raptors, unique from the other birds. All the different species of raptor have really sharp, big talons that they use for hunting. They can use them to grasp their prey. They also have really impressive beaks and really great eyes, so that perched way up high, they can actually spot their prey scurrying around and dial in on it and swoop down to get it. Owls have a pretty unique adaptation actually, where their feathers have adapted a certain growth pattern where when they're flying through the air, it can actually be almost silent. So that if they're chasing and stalking prey, the prey isn't aware that there's an owl coming up behind them. We could also talk about the importance of developing a relationship and a bond with the animals, especially intelligent animals like the raptors. It's really important to form trust both ways. We need the animals to trust that we're going to take good care of them, we're not going to cause them any harm or put them in any dangerous situations. We also need to be able to trust the animals that they're not going to put us in any harm, that we can go in there and safely take care of them and provide the best quality care that we can. So a few fun facts about great horned owls in general. They're actually named great horned owls not because they have actual horns on their head, but because they have two little feathers on top, actually called plumicorns, in the place of horns. They look a lot like they could be horns. They're also the only natural predators of skunks because they really don't have a great sense of smell. So if they were to get sprayed, they wouldn't mind as much as some other predators would. And as much as cartoons may lead you to believe that an owl can turn their head all the way 360 degrees around, they can't quite do 360, but they can go up to 270 degrees because they actually have 11 vertebrae in their neck, so they can turn their head almost all the way around to look behind them and even a little bit over the shoulder. So a lot of people might think identifying a red-tailed hawk would be as easy as finding the red coloration on their tail. They're not always that bright red though, so you might be able to look for a band of stripes on their chest as another way to identify them. Another fun fact is they're actually mostly monogamous birds, so they will actually mate for life. So if you see one, there's a good chance that there's actually a pair and there's another one in the area. Or you could just come visit the Racine Zoo and see Rudy right over here.
Here in our Walkabout Creek exhibit, we have two resident birds. One of them is our tawny frogmouth. His name is Ashton. He's 7 years old, and in human care, they live to be about 10. These guys are often mistaken for owls due to their coloration, their size, and just overall appearance. And their species name actually does mean owl-like, but they are not owls. They aren't raptors at all. So owls have really strong feet and talons that they use to swoop down and scoop up their prey. But if you check out Ashton close enough, you'll see that his feet are pretty small and there's no talons there. So instead, they hunt by doing a sit and wait. So they camouflage into the tree branches, they lay real low, and then they pounce on the food, and that's how they're able to capture their prey. In the wild, these guys eat mostly insects, including slugs, worms, anything like that. But they will eat small mammals, mice, rodents, and they do occasionally eat reptiles and amphibians when given the chance. Here at the Racine Zoo, Ashton gets fed a combination of mice, mealworms, waxworms, and crickets. And we do hand feed him his mice, and he seems to really like that, and we get to interact with him then. These guys get most of the water that they need through the food that they eat, so you won't necessarily see him drinking from his water dish even though it is there. These guys also don't make much sound, so when you walk by his exhibit, you probably won't hear anything from him. Sometimes you won't even see him. These guys are camouflaged so well that they can lay flat onto a branch or just be standing up next to one, and it's really hard to see. They close their eyes because that's the only thing that gives them away because their eyes are so bright and yellow. Here at the zoo, Ashton, like I said, gets hand-fed by us, so he's pretty fond of his keepers. He kind of fluffs up and shakes around when we come near him. He really likes showers as well, so especially when it starts to get real hot out, we'll give him a little shower and he'll mist off. He does play with his enrichment, but these guys are nocturnal, so we don't really see him doing it a lot during the day, but overnight events you can see him kind of flying around and interacting with things. So he makes a great addition down here at our walkabout with all the other Australian animals here.
My name is Paul Miller. I'm one of the animal care specialists here at the Racine Zoo. Primarily I work with the education animals, and today I'm going to talk about my buddy Gumby the kookaburra. So Gumby here is a laughing kookaburra. He's called a laughing kookaburra because of his distinct call. It sounds a lot like a laugh, hence the name. These guys are native to Eastern Australia, where they're going to live in kind of forested, open woodlands. Kookaburras are a kind of kingfisher, so they're going to be hunting for things like mice or lizards. They're predatory birds. Here at the zoo, Gumby gets a variety of different prey items. Right now I'm giving him pieces of mice. He'll also get insects, occasionally fish. Gumby is one of our ambassador animals, so that means he goes out on programs. One of the ways that we accomplish this is through something called positive reinforcement. We don't make the animal do anything he doesn't want to do. We use his diet, so the mouse, as kind of a reinforcement to have him do the behaviors that we want him to do. I cued him to the perch, and he voluntarily flew from a perch over there to this perch because he knew if he did, he would get some food. We also use this to get him to voluntarily crate for us. He hops in a little crate This is also useful in getting weights on him if we need to weigh him or do any kind of veterinary work with him. It's good to have an animal that's trained through positive reinforcement, because then they're taking an active part in what we want them to do.
This is Miranda, and Miranda is an umbrella-crested cockatoo, or an umbrella cockatoo for short. These guys are really well known for that great crest that Miranda here is showing off right now. That crest is used for showing off for females, which is what he's doing right now. They also use that when they're really excited or playing. So this guy was actually born here at the Racine Zoo, and he was raised by people. So what that means is that he is very comfortable being around humans, which makes him a perfect fit for our zoo. He actually believes that he is a human and actually really loves working with his female keepers. As you can tell, he's very excited and loves to tell everyone just how excited he is. These guys are actually found throughout Australia in the trees, and they love to eat peanuts and other nuts, fruits, and seeds that they can find up there. Cockatoos like Miranda here are incredibly intelligent birds. They are actually a member of the citizen or parrot group, and that means that they have the intelligence of a 3-year-old child. That is incredibly smart. Unfortunately, a lot of people keep them as pets. And while they can make great pets if you know what you're doing, they are also very difficult to keep. Like I said, they have the intelligence of a 3-year-old child, but they have an incredibly strong beak, and they love to chew and destroy things. And that's one of Miranda's favorite things to do here at the zoo. Here at the zoo, yeah, we do. We give you all kinds of fun enrichment that you can use that beak on, use your really dexterous claws and things like that to be able to interact with that enrichment. Unfortunately, as a pet, that often means them destroying furniture. They also don't always make great pets because they live so long. Cockatoos like Miranda here can live to be well over 80 years old. And that is a lot longer than your average 20, 30, or 40-year-old getting a pet bird is going to live. So a lot of these birds are out there that need homes. Unfortunately, parrots like Miranda are also actually taken illegally from the wild and brought into the pet trade. So if you are thinking about getting a parrot, make sure you go to your local rescue or sanctuary, because there are plenty of these birds that still need a home. As he's talking, you can see the tongue moving inside of Miranda's mouth. That tongue is fantastic, not only at helping them manipulate the seeds and the meat inside of nuts, it's also really great at getting them to mimic human sounds. So these birds are fantastic communicators, and they will imitate whatever their keepers say. Some of his favorite things to say include "Hi Miranda," saying hi to himself, and saying "Go Packers." Can you wave? Good boy. These birds are highly intelligent, as I've mentioned, and that means that behaviors like waving are fairly easy for them to pick up on. Miranda, hi Miranda.
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm the head carnivore keeper here at the Racine Zoo, but I also take care of our yellow-crowned Amazons. Yellow-crowned Amazons are found in the Amazon rainforest, or the northern part of South America. They're of least concern by the IUCN, which means that there's actually a lot of them found in the Amazon. A lot of times in the Amazon, they're found in pairs or flocks up to 30 individuals. So the 2 yellow-crowned Amazons we have at the Racine Zoo are Buster and Abby. As you can see, they're separated. In the smaller enclosure is Abby, and in the whole exhibit is Buster. They're separated because Abby suffered from a leg injury a few years back, so she has to be able to walk around a little bit more in a smaller type area so that she has an easier time to get around. But parrots are monogamous, so we want to make sure that they can still see each other and still interact, and they'll actually still groom each other through the cage and talk to each other. So that's why we still keep them together. All cetaceans have a high level of intelligence, and that's the family group that parrots belong to. So we try to offer them lots of enrichment and training sessions, and lots of interaction with their keepers. We actually get tons of donations for them through our Amazon wish list. So every day we offer them different enrichment items, novel or edible. I like to put on the radio for them because they like to sing along. I mean, I don't necessarily have the greatest voice, but it's kind of lots of fun for them. Like our guests really like to interact with them, so that's really great for the parrots and great for our guests. So yeah, so come on down to the zoo and come interact with the parrots. It's a ton of fun.
I'm sure by now that you can see and appreciate how wonderful birds are. The collection that we have here at the Racine Zoo is amazing. From our Guam rails, to our kookaburra, to our adjutant storks, to our budgies, to Miranda. And you've seen everything that you can get up close and personal with that you might not normally do. So birds are special creatures. You can see that they are loved and cared for here at the Racine Zoo by our wonderful animal care staff. Our education staff is able to tell these stories about these magnificent creatures. So birds now are very special, and I hope that you see that they're very special for yourselves. So when you come out to the Racine Zoo, remember we're located at 2131 North Main, you're going to be able to see these birds, whether they are in the aviary, the stork aviary. There's also some native birds that are just happen to come around the zoo as well, or one of our education programs when you're seeing the kookaburra with our education staff. But come out, these are wonderful animals, and we cannot wait to see you here at the Racine Zoo, and especially on the next episode of Racine Zoo to You.